Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
So I have two announcements. Can I make two announcements?
Two announcements. Should I say regular programming will continue after these messages?
Yes, you can say that. I think you said that.
Okay. I should have just left it to the first time. Regular programming will resume after these messages.
So the first message is the 3PGC has a global conference that's happening online. It started today, and it's going for 48 hours with speakers from all around the world. And it's only $75. You can watch live, you can watch the recording. So highly encourage you to sign up for that if you're interested. We're speaking on Sunday.
Yeah, I already caught Aaron's intro. It was magnificent.
Yes,
so I highly recommend it.
And we are wearing Amy's Little School of Big Change t-shirts because her enrollment is open now for her school. And I believe it shuts on Thursday, and her Little School of Big Change is just such a profound and impactful program. We're really grateful because the Soul-Centered Series participants were all able to participate in her school, those who wanted to. So really have heard such wonderful things about it.
Yeah, and everyone I know that's done it has absolutely loved it. So yeah, thumbs up from me. Big time.
Yes, so can we go back to regular programming?
Regular programming will now resume.
So we have been in a bit of a low mood phase as a family. We've been fighting this bug, and yesterday one of our daughters was, both of our daughters have been sick in bed for a couple of days, and one of them yesterday was just freaking out, like anxiety, angry, like just in a really low mood, and I was kind of shocked by it, and fortunately didn't take it too personally. And this morning, I could feel sort of last night that I was starting to fight the bug, and this morning I woke up having a panic attack. So I woke up having this panic attack, and I felt like I couldn't be in my body. It felt so uncomfortable. And I felt like I was going to lose my mind if that experience lasted any longer. And the first thing I thought about is drugs. Like, what am I going to take? And then fortunately, I'm still in bed. I'm not getting up. It passed. But then I realized that is kind of, she hadn't been in a complete panic attack all day, but she had been living in kind of that level of anxiety most of the day yesterday. So to me, it was just really interesting how fighting a bug can not just impact the physical body, but how it can impact state of mind too.
Yeah. Well, how quickly did you remember who you were when you woke up yesterday morning in a state of blind panic?
This
morning. Well, you did a good job of covering it up, I must say.
I didn't forget who I was.
What I mean by that is, I think, in remembering who you are in terms of what we're pointing to with this understanding. It's like you're caught up. I imagine you maybe, I don't know, you're having a nightmare or something. You're in this very agitated state. Before you're even kind of being conscious in your body, you're playing this sort of old movie, this old thought process, maybe even the remnants of a nightmare that you're going through.
It was really weird. It wasn't a nightmare. It was just a feeling experience. There was no content around it.
Wow.
I know. It's an unusual experience. There's no content whatsoever. I wasn't or that I remember. There was no nightmare. I just woke up feeling incredibly uncomfortable in my body.
Wow. But then you're starting to put thoughts on it. You're starting to put a narrative to it.
You mean now?
Well, no, not now. In the moment, I'm just fascinated by that.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't. Well, yes, I did. The thought that I went to was, I don't think I can handle this.
Right.
This feels too much. So that was the story I put on it. But then I just sort of relaxed and settled down, and it went away.
Well, I guess that's the question I probably should have asked, is how quickly did you start to mistrust your thinking, knowing that you were in a state of mind that probably was not your best?
It was pretty quick. It didn't last very long, so I'm grateful for that. But what it did do is that it helped me have compassion for our daughter, who was having that kind of experience most of the day yesterday.
Right.
Where she was really uncomfortable in her body, not on a physical level. Like, it was odd. But I thought, well, I'm sure it's a result of this bug. I don't think that, it just seems like too much of a coincidence.
So what's the learning in this for everybody? Is it that we just come back to our natural state of balance and harmony and well-being?
Well, I thought you were going to also talk about how you've been fighting this bug and your craziness related to it as well.
You've now classified me as, what is it, the zero patient in this household?
Well, part of what was going on with one daughter's low mood was that she was blaming the other daughter for making all of us sick because she said that she was the first one. But when you told me that you weren't feeling well last week, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe you were the one that brought it into the house.
Well, I wasn't feeling well on, was it Saturday or Sunday? But I definitely had...
Saturday.
I had what to me felt like a bit of a shocking experience at the time, because I was in a low mood and I got into progressively worse and worse mood as the weekend wore on. But all along I was still conscious of the fact I shouldn't really be trusting this, shouldn't be trusting my thinking in this state of mind. And then through a series of events, and probably the fact that I wasn't feeling well, I think you did some very innocuous act.
I remember what I did. Can I say what I did?
You can. It would make me look like such an idiot.
Oh, I don't have to.
No, you can tell me. That's fine.
So
I wasn't in my rightful mind, obviously.
We were running the Soul Centered series last weekend, and as part of it, there's a microphone that for people who are in the audience they can use to share. And we also have these Tibetan bells that we use to help remind people to come back in from break. And one weekend, somebody turned off the microphone and it created this horrific noise. So my understanding was that we're not allowed to turn off the microphone because if it gets turned off, there's this horrific noise, which I didn't want to do. And so Angus put the microphone down next to the Tibetan bells, and they made a noise when you put it down. I thought, oh no, that's the people who are listening online hear what's going through that microphone. I don't want them to be distracted by the Tibetan bells making a noise. So I went and picked up the microphone and put it on the other side of the table. And I don't know what you thought I was doing.
Well, it wasn't so much that. That was the sort of initial act.
Oh, what else did I do?
Well, we started to have this conversation. Well, I would say it was a little bit of a conflict. It wasn't really, but in my mind, it was. I was outraged by the fact that you seemed to believe you knew more about the workings of the microphone than I did, that I am now very familiar with. So there is an on-off switch on the bottom of the device.
They need to know all this.
That will all hell will break loose
Right.
if you press that without turning it off at the main frame. But there is a mute button. So I pressed the mute button before I put it down next to the Tibetan bells. And you snatched it away from me.
Oh, snatched it?
It looked like a snatch to me. In my mind, through my low mood lens, it was a snatch. And then we proceeded to have this difference of opinion about the workings of the microphone, of which I knew exactly its workings, and you had a different opinion that I felt was inaccurate. But you being your obstinate self, stuck to your guns. Well, Shannon told me that you must never turn the microphone off. And I kept trying to explain that it was a mute button and there was an on-off switch on the bottom. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I decided to make that as the springboard to this experience of just playing a very old narrative about hating my wife, and spent the rest of the afternoon, I don't know, just in that, immersing myself in that dark place. And what was so interesting about it is, like, there was still the sort of little Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder banging me with his umbrella. Didn't he have an umbrella, Jiminy Cricket? Saying, don't trust this thinking. You're in a low mood. So it was kind of like, again, it's like Alan the Man with two, what is it? Dr. Strangelove was like, the Nazi doing this. Well, the scientist is trying to regain control. So I was like, that might have even got me more sped up. So I was so...
Yeah, maybe you need to let that go.
I was so outraged by, like, this sort of personality that was taking over my body. But I think I slowly and surely, the Incredible Hulk emerged and took over my entire human system. And then it was all your fault. For the rest of the day, it was all your fault. The rest of the day, I think a couple of hours maybe, it was your fault. And I couldn't really, I just didn't come back down to earth. And then we were going to go out to dinner, and I just thought, oh God. And I hate having to, one of my things with our relationship is that when we in the past would have an argument and have to go out and conduct ourselves in a social way, you're very good at pretending everything is okay, and I just can't do that. It just doesn't work for me. And in the past, I would just completely extricate myself from the proceedings and go off and do something else. And obviously that just wasn't on the table. I would have appeared very unprofessional and ridiculous. And especially knowing what I know, how on earth could I get to that spot? So so I kind of I was driving over to rendezvous with you at the restaurant, and I was kind of aware that I was in this really poor state of mind, and I was like, I just don't see a way out of this. I know that I'll come back into balance at some point, but that doesn't feel like it's in the cards. It doesn't feel like it's in my future or my immediate future. And then someone cut me off in the car park. I found a parking spot, which were few and far between on a Saturday night. And so someone left immediately, but it meant I had to do a little maneuver in a reverse, and this person cut me off and honked at me, preventing me from doing my reverse move. And then I had to then drive on. Then they did exactly what I was planning to do and took the spot. Oh. So they couldn't hear me, but because they'd already driven 50 yards over to the other side of the car, but I just hit the roof. We're swearing and God knows what else. And then, but in that moment, I just suddenly realized it's nothing to do with Rohini. It's just totally my state of mind. And look how I'm behaving now.
Right.
Completely lost the plot. I haven't lost the plot behind the wheel of a motor car for a long time. Usually I'm actually quite well equipped to see the psychological innocence in those kind of people. But in that moment, I just let it rip. And it just really demonstrated to me that it was just in a really low mood. Had just bought into it hook, line and sinker. And whatever movie I was playing in my head, that was my reality. So I guess, and I hope that, the learning for me is that I'm still, I'm still coming. It's still a journey that I'm on, and I will go in and out of having those moments where I get into a low mood and buy into my thinking. But I feel at least I've developed somewhat of a muscle to see it. And I guess nowadays it's kind of a bit of a shock when I get really bought into it and act out from that place. But I'd like to think that it was partly to do with the fact that I was my physical health was at a low ebb, and I was really struggling.
Yeah.
I just, on some level, I probably just wanted to be in bed, and I felt like I have to be out here, and I have to be performing my duties. But yeah, it's a learning curve, and I imagine I will get better and better at it. And perhaps the learning is just to stay in bed when you feel like that. Although there wasn't the luxury to do that at the weekend.
That wasn't on offer. Luckily for me, I'm going to get to watch the conference in bed. I think my camera is going to be off for most of it.
Right.
So the moral of the story: don't take your lonely thinking seriously.
Yeah,
it will pass.
Yeah, and it's that's what.
If your husband freaks out at you, it's okay to just leave him alone.
That's true. We have to see each other's psychological innocence. Yeah. But I found it very compelling. That's the shocking thing, and I haven't had a moment like that for a long time. Yeah. But it's I think it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really important to remember, is that no matter how much we see in terms of who we are, in terms of our spiritual nature, we're still having a human experience, and we're at times going to get caught up in our human experience. And sometimes it's going to be harder to not be compelled by those thoughts. Just like for me this morning, it felt really intense, and I'm really grateful that I was able to just relax and let it move through me. Our daughter wasn't so fortunate yesterday. She was fighting it most of the day. But now, she's gone to get her nails done, so she's fine. And
upon reflection,
yes.
Well, I think looking back in terms of how I was showing up in that very low mood, and it was an extremely low mood as far as I was concerned, it was pretty much all internal. It wasn't something that I was outwardly expressing. So I don't know that in the past, you would have got it both barrels in the way that I probably wanted to share my feelings with that motorist.
Yeah.
And there was none of that. So I was kind of I was conscious of what was going on, but having this really strong emotional experience.
Yeah, you were just killing me with daggers.
I was killing you with
eye daggers.
That's right.
But much better.
But at least I knew enough not to trust the thinking to actually there be an outward expression of it.
And it's fortunate actually that you were behaving at least with that much, because I wouldn't have known otherwise, and I probably would have engaged with you.
I think most of it was what I shared with you later in terms of probably what you knew about it at the time.
So I just knew that you weren't okay and to leave you alone.
Yeah.
And that at some point you'd come back. You wouldn't be the Incredible Hulk anymore.
That's right. I'd become Bill Bixby or whoever it was.
You know his name?
I think that was the actor. That shows my age. David Banner.
Is he the character?
He's a character before he becomes the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. Well, have a good weekend, everybody, and maybe see you on the online conference this weekend.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye. Everyone.